just realize everything's a process. You can get what you want if you follow the process and if you have a compelling vision.
Yeah, that's a typical male answer. Listen, it's like 1 + 1 = 2, and I love it. AJ, welcome to the Muslimah Entrepreneur Podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. Look how exciting it is. You're the first male guest on the Muslimah Entrepreneur Podcast. You're not even Muslim, but I just love it.
I know, exactly. So what am I doing here?
What am I doing here? You got to share your valuable experience and your knowledge, because you're also an entrepreneur. And I decided for season 2 to have male guests also come and talk about their journey. And you know what we were talking, I'm like, it's super interesting because we'll have the compare and contrast between a female entrepreneur and a male entrepreneur. And so you can say like, your side of things and like your own journey, and we can learn, from each other. And at the end of the day, this is the best that we can do.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. So who is AJ and what is he doing?
So that's a philosophical question. So I'm essentially a content marketer based between the UK and Monaco. I've been in kind of digital pretty much my entire working life. I had a brief stint as a musician. I basically came out the womb and didn't respect authority and didn't want to follow the normal path. So I've been essentially entrepreneurial my entire life, which probably much to the chagrin of my mother is probably
they just want to see us safe, like entrepreneurship.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
right,
so it's
right,
like
exactly.
no. Is that a regular pay job?
Exactly. Right. So there's been that, and yeah, I've had a really, really interesting career so far. So with the same kind of age, that's all I'm going to say. So I've done things like I've run a small e-commerce company with customers in, I think, 30 different countries. I've run a couple of different kind of income websites here for the UK market, for the US market. Done some affiliate marketing, both for UK and the US. I think what else I've done. I had a little book publishing company at one point, which still kind of brings me passive income, which is great. I probably got loads of different things, but I think that's kind of it. So I've done a lot.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, just like, okay, I can leave you the whole episode to tell us about all of that. I think the interesting.
I don't think that'd be exciting though. Come on.
I was like, no. The interesting thing that you said is that you have several careers within the digital world, and I think like this is the trend that we're seeing is that we're moving in the digital world. So and you have a lot of experience in that, and I think it's going to be valuable for you to tell us like what were your top struggle, like being in this industry and in this world, and like making a living out of it, because I think this is what's scary for people. It's like, how can I make a living out of it?
So there's loads that I can talk to about that. So the first one that kind of comes to mind is, I think, it's real skills priorities, because there's so much you can learn and you can do. There's so many ways you can make money online, and so I think it's so important to really kind of get a sense of what you're good at. So for me, I'm dyslexic, so I'm not the best writer, but I've written over 1 million words in the last kind of 4 or 5 years. And so I've become quite a good writer. I've become quite good, but that's been a real kind of struggle and a real skill that I've had to really learn. And so there's been that. But I think, if you can learn to write well, you can learn to have a job no matter what, because, people always need stuff written. People always need copy to be written or content to be written. And so, yes, that's been a big struggle. One of the big struggles that I face, that I think everyone faces who tries to start a business, is it's task prioritization as well, because there's so many things that you can do, and it's therefore kind of sitting down and thinking, okay, right, what's going to move the needle?
Yeah.
and you know, even now, even though I've been doing this now for over a decade, you know, in terms of, you know, it still can be hard to really know what to prioritize and what to kind of how to even just assign time.
Yeah.
And so that's been a real struggle. I've never really been one of these people that has built like a really innovative idea who's needed to go out and raise capital. So I've never had to do that, other than beg the bank, which they've always said no. So so I can't really talk to that, but I know some people, you know, who'll probably be listening will be struggling with trying to refinance so I just think those are the kind of the top things, you know. I think everyone struggles with knowing what to prioritize and how to prioritize. And
as a solo entrepreneur, I think that's a great, you know, like, so the struggle being dyslexic is and you had to, you know, write for a living, like for a business. It's crazy because again, it shows that, you know, like nothing is impossible, and please don't limit yourself. And as a coach, this is like what I breathe and live for, is that, you know, like, stop limiting yourself. Like, if you put in the work, whether it's in entrepreneurship or just in your life in general, you'll see results. So there are no time to make excuses. And I just love that you talked about this at the beginning. And then you brought up the task, prioritization, which is, you know, when you're a solo entrepreneur, I think that's your biggest learning point, you know, like, or biggest struggle. So like, how have you overcome that? Or if you didn't overcome it like fully, because you just said, you know, it's still a work in progress, how are you working on it?
So there's a few things that, you know, so I think the biggest one is trying to realize that good is good enough. Because I think it's so easy to be kind of perfectionist and to try and wait for everything to be kind of perfectly aligned. And it reminds me, you know, years ago, I remember a friend saying to me, when's the best time to have children? And I'm like, well, the best time to have children is when you're 60 and you're retired. The second best time to have children is now. You know, it's that whole kind of thing. That, you know, don't wait for perfect, you know, try now. But also, I think as I've developed skills, and I just think everything comes back to skills. So if you're willing to develop skills, it's then about how you apply their skills. And so you should get better and better at applying skills over time, because you get better and better at learning how to do things and how to do things in a quick as possible way. I've also got a really good friend of mine called Colin. He runs a YouTube channel called the English Language Club, and his best quality is he's so insightful. So he's not a small detail person. So if we start talking about small detail things, you can see he glazes over, he gets really bored really easily, which is kind of funny to see somebody instantly have a reaction to you. Whereas, you know, he's very much big picture. So he walk in and go, right, this isn't working because of X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I've had conversations with him where I've been saying, well, this is what I'm struggling with. He goes, that's not the problem, this is the problem. And he's so, you know, I think that's why he's, you know, incredibly intelligent and incredibly knowledgeable in, you know, in what he does, because he's just so insightful. And so I try to be more like him, you know, how I kind of think about tasks.
It's great, you know, having conversation with other people. So first of all, being aware of our limitations, or our weaknesses, let's say, is key. Is the first step. Okay, you got to be real with yourself. Especially, you can't afford to be delusional, you know, when you're an entrepreneur. This is like, you know, you can be a big dreamer, but now things need to get real, you know, to move, you know, forward. So, and definitely having conversation with others and spotting what they're good at, and even, you know, asking them, you know, feedback, like, how can I improve on that? Because I definitely feel that it's a weakness, and you're doing it. And again, as you said, you know, practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progress. Thank you, Jim Quick. Shout out to Jim Quick for that one. Okay, it's not from me, but 100%. This is it. Like, definitely, practice makes progress. Is there any way that you keep track of this progress? Like, have you included that in your like day-to-day, you know, operations?
So yeah, so I keep a kind of a journal of what I do every day, and so I can track what I've done. I can track how successful or how unsuccessful I've been on a particular day. And obviously, I'm a big believer in, well, there's two things that I'm a believer in. So like daily minimums, so having, you know, certain tasks that you have to get done. And then once you get that done, then, you know, you can do other things, because if you have daily minimums, you're pushing everything along. Well, that's the idea, right?
Yeah.
So by having like 3 or 4 tasks that you have to do every day, you should be pushing everything to that next step. And then if you then get time to do other things, it's great. If you have a really bad day or you want to go out with friends or whatever, as long as you've got your minimums, then you are pushing everything forward.
Yeah.
And so that to me has been really, really important. The other thing that I've accepted is that when I have a great day, and I bash through everything that I need to get done, you know, in 3 hours, right? I then have a mental to keep going, right? And then the next day or 2 days later, maybe a bad day, I may just barely get through what I need to get done on my absolute have to do list. But actually, overall, you're making great progress because you're working within the normal variance and how your energy levels and your mentality are.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's really, really important to kind of acknowledge that it's not up all the time. It's up and down.
Yeah.
And that you hope on the days that you're up that you get far more accomplished and you get far more done than on days where everything just, you know, goes to pieces.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes to pieces and it's not your fault, right? So
exactly.
And you just hope there's days that you do enough to kind of keep everything moving.
So how do you know? So you know that it's enough because you have those daily minimums every day. And I love that you mentioned, you know, the ups and downs. And I think, again, this is something that I want to talk about with people because, again, as I said, you know, it's not unicorns. It's not like, no, like the life of an entrepreneur, it takes a lot out of you. And agreed, you have to be realistic with yourself saying you're going to have ups and downs. How do you manage then when you are in the downs, you know, like how do you manage, you know, just understanding that it's just a transition, that I'm just going to take my time and go through this? Like, is there anything that you say to yourself? Do you have like okay, go ahead.
There's loads. So for me, everything will come back to my compelling vision, right? So I have a really compelling vision of where I want to be in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And so that to me is what it all comes back to. And so if I have a bad day, then I go to the vision board, I go and look at Instagram, I go and look at my saved things on Instagram, and I look through those kind of things. So that is what reminds me of the vision or keeps me the vision more current. And therefore I can, you know, regroup and hopefully try again. And I think, you know, in the past when I haven't had that strong vision and I haven't had those kind of those things in place, it's been really, really tough to keep going and to have those days where it is just tough. But also as a really good friend of mine keeps saying to me, she says, you know, look, it's a process. You have a plan, you know, you work damn hard and it will eventually happen.
Yeah.
And you just have to trust the process, and you know, it's okay to get upset. It's okay to, you know, to be frustrated, but you know, you've got to stick to the process, stick to the plan.
Yeah, 100%. And this is huge, you know, having a compelling vision, like where am I going? Like, why am I doing all of this stuff? Like, why am I going through all of this, you know? And as you said, there is a clear, you know, like difference between not having a compelling vision, and I love that you added this word, and just, you know, wanting something, or, you know, having your wishful thinking, because when, you know, the hits the fan, like it's not going to be, you know, like a good time. So better have something to go back to. And I love that you shared, you know, the strategy of like going to Instagram. So having these constant reminders of like, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going. It's huge. It's huge because we can get lost into the day-to-day, you know, like tasks and challenges and all of that. So this is amazing because we haven't shared that on the podcast yet. So this is great.
And one thing I just say, because this may be actually really, really useful for people. So for me, you know, my compelling vision isn't just money, right? Because I feel that's kind of, you know, that's a very basic one.
Yeah.
So for me, I can, I know where I want to live, how big the apartment is, what the apartment's going to look like, what I'm going to be doing with my life, what car I'm going to be driving, what my future wife will look like, what our future dog will be like, where we'll go on holiday, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I've got all of this written down.
Yeah.
And some of it, I've managed to tick off. We were talking before we started about the watch that I'm wearing. That's one thing that I ticked off the list. And there are some other things. So
that's awesome.
But so that is the really important thing to me, is that to create a compelling vision, it's not just about the money, but it's about what the money can get you. And actually, I saw a mutual friend of ours, John Hill, Small Mountain, like this thing on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, which said, it was a sales manager saying, I can't remember the exact quote, but he was saying, look for the motivation behind why people want the money, because nobody ever wants the money. Yeah. They want the item that the money will get them. So yes. Is it that they want more holidays? Is it that they want a bigger house? Is it that they want to, have more children? Whatever, right? It's that thing. And I think it's so easy to say, well, I want to get rich, or I want to have lots of money, or I want to have blah, blah. But I think, to have a compelling vision is to have more to have more depth to what you want in a way that, actually is definable.
Yeah, 100%. It's like always, we were talking about compelling vision. It's something, that you're passionate about. So your heart is talking, not your head, and saying,
exactly,
I need X amount of money in my bank account to feel safe and secure.
Yeah.
And just or being superficial. I want this and I want to buy this. Yeah. So 100%, I think going back to that, like, what do I really want? And for me, in my coaching, we always start there.
Yeah.
Who am I and what do I really want? So, and being crystal clear on that, not like vague and all of that, because that's the best strategy to stay lost and, frustrated, because you never hit like a moving target. So,
exactly.
So this is great. I just love it.
Yeah. And actually the quote that that's popped into my brain is, somebody asked, after Walt Disney died, somebody asked, I think his wife or like his chief of staff or somebody, because they opened, I think it was Disneyland Florida, literally a month or so after he died, or maybe a little bit after he died. And somebody asked his like chief of staff or his secretary, so what, is Walt disappointed that he wasn't here to see it? And the person laughed at him and said, no, because he had it all up here. He knew exactly how it's going to look, how it's going to feel, how it's going to smell up here, that he'd walked around the park millions of times. And so it doesn't matter that he's not here, because he lived within it, and he lived within it before it was even created. And that to me, is mind blowing, right?
Yeah, 100% true. It's the power of like having here, in our mind and manifestation. And this is the people that think long term. Like, think long term, like really your vision outlive you. And I think that's another stage of like, short-term thinking, long-term thinking. That's two different things. And you're better, especially if you're going as an entrepreneur, better think long-term. It's not a short-term thing, because you will not see results. It's super, super rare. Well, just this is amazing for the mindset. Is it something that you wanted to add, maybe?
Well, no, I just want to say, I don't know who said this to begin with, but somebody said, I'm an overnight success 10 years in the making.
Yes.
Right. I love that, because I think that's so accurate.
So true. Like really well put together, because it definitely is that. Like we see the headlines in the newspaper of like this, company sold for but they worked on it for like 10 years, 20 years before they sold it. So and so talking about business and like building a successful business, let's jump on the strategies, because your expertise is all about making money out of content and written content, because you're through a blog. So if someone wants to start that type of business, what would be like your number one advice for success?
Well, hire me, of course.
Hire me to start. Exactly.
So I'll give you the kind of three standards. So number one, pick something that you're interested in, because again, like we just discussed, you're not going to last for 10 years if you're not interested in something. So that's number one. Number two, be willing to learn and to pivot as fast as you can. Because sometimes you might try something and it doesn't work out, and so you need to pivot. And I think the people that pivot and learn the quickest are the people that are generally more successful in the long run. Because your goal can stay the same, it's just how you get there changes, right?
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize that. They think that they have to change their goal. No, you just have to change your method of getting there. So I think that's really, really important. And then just, so for me with content, I think of, think of everything into the pyramids. I don't know why I think of things into the pyramids. So think of where your value is in the pyramid. So I tend to think of, you have the biggest bottom, the biggest segment is at the bottom, right? And you have the people that have very little value but deliver little value to lots of people.
Yeah.
Right. So you might think of like McDonald's. Yeah. Perfect example. The next step up is you have people that deliver some value to a fewer, more kind of developed people. Yeah. So you may say that that's like a steakhouse, right? I'm trying to think of an American steakhouse, but I can't. Right. And then at the top of the pyramid you have your 5-star hotel, which has 2 Michelin stars or 3 Michelin stars, that services a very, very, very narrow group of people. Yeah. And gets charged what they like for it, essentially, right? But they're not for everybody. And so I think it's defining where you are. So we have a mutual friend who runs a podcast, and I'm not going to name names because he might listen to this later. But we had a really interesting conversation last year, and I was saying, to me, your value lies in the second bit. So people are better served at the bottom by anyone, right? Yeah. So with a particular person we're talking about, he's got an episode of a podcast about crowdfunding. And so his episode doesn't start with him giving a 10-minute monologue about what crowdfunding is. They jump right into the good stuff. And he's got 2 experts with him. And so I'm like, okay, right. So people have to have some, a prerequisite is they have to know a little bit about crowdfunding. They have to understand what how crowdfunding kind of works. But the value is immense because you're not having to deal with all the basic issues. You're dealing with the meat, right? Yes. Yeah. And therefore, your value is far more up the chain. But actually, you have a far more interesting conversation, and you can be far more valuable to people that are actually established in business than you can if you have to go. So this is what crowdfunding is. This is how crowdfunding works. This is what you might want to consider, because there are 1,000,003 people doing that already, right? Yeah. So that's what I think in terms of value. So we also know an American sales coach. Again, he will remain nameless because he might listen to this. And in his pyramid, if you like, he's got people like Grant Cardone and Dan Locke at the bottom, who are providing very, very remedial advice to lots of people. You have people like him, this guy in the middle. You then have people like his sales coach at the top, because his sales coach can charge whatever he wants, can deal with just a few people. And actually, if his sales coach was to have a blog, it would get read by probably very little people, because it would be so highly technical and so highly strategic that it would make no sense if you just starting out in sales. Where somebody like Dan Locke, may make a lot more sense to you if you're just starting out. And so it's about understanding your value. Yeah.
Yeah, understanding the value that we provide for people.
Right.
Is that okay? So like choosing your niche, like who you're talking to, and like understanding the value. Like, am I for like a beginner, or like am I for experts? Am I for a very like small amount of people, or is it like for a lot of people? This service. So 100% like just keeping that in mind before we start then writing the content.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So once we start writing the content, how do we make money out of it? Like what is the process? Very like quickly, like an overview, like what's the process behind it?
I love that. You essentially said, summarize the encyclopedia of Canada in 3 words. Okay. So you need to write content around keywords that you're actually going to rank for. And so that's a whole nother list of things that we can talk about later. Or
another episode.
Or another episode. You don't need to be writing engaging content. So think like you're talking to another person, not that you're writing an essay. You don't need to find some monetization that makes sense. So that could be running adverts, that could be recommending products that you then get commission on the products. You could be doing something where you're doing something like a discounter, so you get a percentage from discount codes that you're flogging every week or every month. You could be doing something like you're paying for acquisitions. So some companies will pay for the people that fill out forms on the website. So things like insurance, mortgages, credit cards, you can get money literally by people just filling out a form or by joining them.
Wow. Okay.
So another big one, and I don't know whether I'm trying to think of how I think AppSumo that they, if you get somebody to join their Plus program or their whatever program, I don't know whether you get some money. Yeah. I think as an affiliate you can get a small commission. Amazon do that with Prime.
Yeah.
Because with Prime, for example, Amazon know once they have you in Prime, you're not going to really want to leave because the benefits are so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so they pay, a couple of dollars per sign up for somebody to just take a free 30-day trial, right? So somebody has to buy and get paid out because they've realized how powerful it is after those 30 days, right? People don't really want to quit because they've realized how powerful, how amazing it is. And so they don't quit. And so actually the lifetime value to Amazon is humongous, and they're paying a couple of pence essentially in terms of what they could be paying you.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's like around, how much is it? Is it like around 10 euros a month or
something like that?
Yeah. So I had an Amazon Prime subscription for free with my internet provider for 1 year.
Right.
But I agree completely, because once you're in it and you see the advantages, now it's like I don't even look at it it had renewed and 100%. So thinking about the lifetime value, as you said, there are tons of ways of making money online from content.
Indeed.
Okay. Yeah. So this is, I think, one of the biggest lessons that you told me is that, it's possible, it's doable. I'm doing it. A lot of my clients are doing it. So why not yourself, adding a new income stream out of it? But it requires commitment, and this is, what I've been lacking for the last year, to see results. But there are ways to make money. So as you said, monetization, engaging, affiliates, or there are tons of ways. If you know your niche and you can also do it too. You have to start with the keywords, as you said, because you want to be first in the Google. Like when we're talking about ranking, it's like when people look for stuff, they want to see your first, you first on the first page. They're not going to look for you on page 67. The goal, your whole teaching, your whole expertise is how to be ranking, for the keyword and show up on the first page.
Yeah. Indeed.
So how, we talked about the strategies to make money online from content, what to keep in mind. So what have you learned so far? This is a long-term game, how do we stay in the game? Or you can also share with us, some examples of, for example, content creators or influencers or just businesses. How can they make money out of their blog?
Right. Okay. So I've been doing kind of content marketing and SEO for such a long time now that a lot of the kind of things are coming back around, which is hilarious. So people are talking about things that they were talking about 10 years ago. And I'm actually in the process this morning of writing a blog post about why SEO takes so long. And it's really, really funny. And now I've got to the point where I'm writing about getting links to your website. And I'm thinking, I find it hysterical kind of thinking about history, because 10 years ago when I started, people were trying to build as many links as possible, and it was all all done in the name of quantity, not quality. And now it's all about quality and not quantity. So there is something to be mindful around that. So I think with anything, it's about trying to learn the skills that actually propel you forwards. So there's lots of SEOs who are probably far more kind of technically advanced than I am, or far more knowledgeable than I am, but they sell themselves as an SEO consultant, or they sell themselves to an agency who then sells them because they're not good at marketing or not good at anything else. And how they think about it is they just think about SEO as kind of a linear thing, whereas to me, I think about SEO comes back to revenue. And if you're not making revenue, there's no point in being an SEO, because there's no, because you're not building a catalog that, you know, is going to be read by your 4 friends and your parents. You're trying to make money, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me is a really, really important thing. That also to me is what a lot of people are missing. So I know we talked about this privately. You know, one of my KPIs each day is how much money have I made? Not because I'm particularly, love money. It's just I know how much I need to make to live the lifestyle that I want to, and so that's really important. I think I can only meet that goal or exceed that goal by understanding where I am each day. And so I think you've got to be commercially minded. You have to understand what is going to move the needle and what isn't going to move the needle. Because the other thing, like for me, is as much as I love what I do, I also love turning that laptop off at night and going watching TV, or going playing the guitar, or going playing tennis, or whatever. Right, something completely different. Yeah. Because it's the balance of life, right? So I'm not tied. I'm not tied, ostensibly to reading about SEO or being kind of caught up in the minutiae of content marketing. I'm more of I love what I do, but I also want to have balance. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. So it works. I think it's a lot of work in words. Like first, and then you make it work for you, so you can have this free time. You're not like 24/7. No. And I thinking about the audience here, like if they're like Muslim women, if they're moms and all of that, they don't have the time to do it. But the time invested from the beginning is worth after the freedom. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But the other thing that I always come back to is I've learned some really, really painful lessons, right? They've been really expensive as well.
Yeah.
And it's that whole kind of thing of just sitting there and saying, right, what's the lesson here? Can I learn? Can I then come back and kind of group around what I know and be smarter and do things quicker and better?
Yeah.
And as long as you're always improving, and as long as your mistake isn't fatal, and you haven't done anything that's going to land you in lots of hot water or lots of trouble, you're fine. And I think if you're a busy mum, you're a mum-entrepreneur.
Yeah,
I hate that term. I think it's
mumpreneur.
Right. It really is about how can I maximize my time, and one of the ways is to say, right, how can I get the results that I want, in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, and how can I put in the KPIs, and how can I put in the SOPs, so operating procedures and processes that will help me get there, that help me run the business without me being required too much.
I think that's a key that you taught me also when we started working together, is really to track real numbers. And I know that for some of us, we're like, big picture, like not into details. But again, I was like, this is a whole process that you need to put in place if you want to earn that freedom of, you don't have to look at it, like every single day, or like working every single day. Of course, noticing, am I going in the right direction or not, Get it. Yeah.
But because for me especially, I have to think into the numbers, into the data, into the trends, right?
Yes.
Because I'm not a very emotional person, unfortunately.
Not a woman.
Thanks. I didn't say that. I did not say that.
This is great. I think again, like this is that's why I wanted to include male guests.
Right, exactly.
And all my mentors are white males in their 40s.
I do apologize.
Okay, that 30s, 40s up, but I loved learning from them, because again, these are the skill set that you need, because most of the entrepreneurs are men. And
yeah.
So if you want to be in that space, if you want to learn, you don't have to become a man or like have men qualities, but they have, the skill set or just the mindset that you need to get in order to say, like, as you said, like, don't be too emotional. You got to track your numbers, have a process in place. So this is your way that you're not going to get crazy, and just moving in the dark. So I just love that. Definitely. It's a learning experience.
But I do think, if you allow emotions to get involved and you allow emotions to kind of rule, you then don't develop consistency. And somebody described it as chopping wood, carrying water, which I don't really like that metaphor, because I think it's a bit weird. But I get what that person's trying to say. It's about trying to ignore the noise around you, trying to focus on what is important. And I think it's so easy to get discouraged. It's so easy to kind of think that nothing matters. And so therefore I think it's so important to focus on things that you can track and things that can make a difference.
Yes. Yeah. I think also that's another key that you said, when you were saying I'm doing SEO to have revenue. I mean, I'm checking all the time if I have revenue, because you want your return on investment. Indeed. You want to have all this effort to mean something and to have a reward, out of it. And then keeping track of that, to like give you the opportunity to say, yes, this is what I'm doing works, or what I'm doing doesn't work. So it's definitely crucial. So and if they want to know like how to do it, definitely they're going to reach out, because you have things that you have prepared to really teach that. And I'm like, I'm going through it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a whole process that you need to put in place, that if you're trying to figure out by yourself, like I did in the past, reading a blog post there, taking free courses here and there, you never have the big picture. You never have like a process from someone that has been doing it, and learning from trial experience and telling you, like, this is exactly how it is going on, and it's not a theory, So, you can tell us more about, what are your services?
Sure. So, well, okay. So I just have to give you praise. So I remember, I guess it was a year ago. Yeah, it must be a year ago. Yeah. Before we jumped on the call together to discuss how to build out your blog, before I even opened my mouth, he said, that's your course and you're going to sell it, you're going to consultancy. And I thought, whoa, no. And so this entire mess is out to you.
I'm not going to be sorry about that.
No. So if you're listening, you want to be inspired, don't talk to Fatima. She's going to ruin your world. I'm kidding. So I have a course that's $50 that's really worth it, and is just a great introduction. I have a blog that you can read for free that I release a new article every week, and I do consultancy. So the blog just kind of educate people on just general kind of topics. The course is a specific set of processes that I use daily in my business, just in a really condensed form. And then what I do with one-on-one coaching is we do 3 months minimum. And what we do in those 3 months is I essentially teach you and work with you to build out a blog using my processes and my strategies and my procedures as well, my processes. And so the people that come and see me for even just like a 2-hour strategy session still walk away knowing what they can do for the next 3, 6, 12 months in terms of what articles they can produce, where to find good practice, where to find good articles to benchmark against. Whereas people that come for me for at least 3 months, maybe even 6, we go through the whole thing from top to bottom. And we get results because I pick people I work with very, very carefully so that they do put the work. And they get results because they're eager to put in the work, and they, because we have a weekly session, they're accountable to somebody. And the thing I always say about coaching, I guess you hopefully will feel the same. Somebody can go read a blog post and get 80% of the way there. So I deliver that 20% that they can't do it by themselves, but that made the magic 20% that they can't. or is it going to take them forever to learn how to do, right? And I can I can condense, and with certain clients, I can go and I can have a look at what they're doing. I can say, right, these are the 3 things that you're doing wrong. And it may be those 3 things that they then try out on one article or one page, has some success a couple of weeks later, a month later. And then as they start to apply it to their whole site, they start to see everything kind of kick into focus and everything starts to tick up in the right direction. And it's because I've spotted one of they've made a really big mistake, or they made a couple of small errors that are compounding. So that's how people can work with me. That's how I work.
Just completely worth it. I think if you want to get in that space, it's definitely not something that I would do by myself and trying to Google, like how to do SEO, like how to make money out of blogs. Like it's crazy. And I love that you have like several, like ways of helping. So you have a blog to give you a taste and like educational, and then the course is definitely worth it because it gives you like a great start. And you have again like neat processes that we can put in place. And I'm like, it's a lot of work. It's like once you get the processes that this is just the beginning, then what you have to do by yourself, and then having you as a coach or consultant where you have like your expert eye where you can spot things faster and just speed up the process. Definitely.
And I think for me, I love to work with people who are coachable, and I think that is so important. And I think being coachable is being willing to learn, and being willing to try. So being willing to learn, being willing to try. And I'm more than happy, when I have coaching sessions with people, I will throw everything that I can at them. That is my sole focus for the hour or those 2 hours. That's all I care about for that entire time, is what they're doing and how they're going to do it, and how we can improve their results.
Yes. I tried and improved myself.
Indeed, right?
Went through it. Yes.
And so be coachable, be willing to learn, and be willing to listen to advice, and be willing to take on and do the work.
So if you are someone like that, where can people find you? Where can they reach out?
Sure. So they can go to the website, which is ajsdigitalgroup.com, which is the website. They can follow me on Instagram, which is a_j_Saunders. I love Instagram. I'm on there constantly. I probably don't love it as much as you do, because you're on there more than I am, probably. But
yes, Instagram can be a dark hole for your time.
Indeed.
Yes.
But I'm approachable on Instagram. That's my personal account. I obviously have a business account as well, which we'll add to the show notes. But please come and hit me up on my personal account if I can help in any way. I'm more than happy to help. On the website, you can always click on the Let's Talk button at the top of every page and book a 50-minute free consultation.
Cool.
So,
Awesome. Great. AJ, anything that you want to add that I haven't asked you that you deem important to share with us today? Go ahead.
Sure. Just realize everything's a process. You can get what you want if you follow the process and if you have a compelling vision.
Yeah, that's a typical male answer. Listen, it's like 1 + 1 = 2. And I love it for us women here to learn out of it, like take out the emotion out of it. Yeah. And I just love that you shared that. And exactly, everything is a process. This is definitely one of my beliefs and what I teach also through my coaching program. And again, like there are so many opportunities for you to not try to figure out by yourself. I mean, get the help, right? Absolutely. It will save you a lot of time and energy and a lot of crying time and all of that. So if you want to make money, with your blog, or just explore SEO and, understand how it can help you to grow your business, Indeed. Hit AJ. Everything will be on the show notes. So I want to thank you just for being here today, for being the first male guest on the Muslimah Entrepreneur Podcast. And you have to come back, to be more technical because you give us some, good stuff here and there, and deep dive.
I've given you an appetizer, haven't I?
Exactly, appetizers and we need the main course
you got the
and then the dessert, so you have to come back. So really, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast. I had a great time.
You're welcome. Awesome. Thank you.